In June of 1840, the Manchester and Birmingham Railway opened a temporary terminus line to Stockport on Travis Street. A large site, 1,700 feet long by 500 feet wide, was cleared of terraced houses and industrial premises to make way for the permanent station Store Street, which was built on top of a viaduct, 30 feet above ground level. The station was opened adjacent to London Road on the 8th of May 1842. It had two platforms, offices and passenger amenities, and by then the line had been extended to Crewe. Store Street was designed by the MBR's chief engineer George Buck, who designed many of the line structures including the Stockport Viaduct itself. Charles Hutton Gregory was the assistant engineer. The station was shared from the beginning with the Sheffield, Ashton-under-Lyne and Manchester Railway following an agreement with the promoters in 1837. The MBR amalgamated with other railway companies to create the London North Western Railway in 1846. The SANMR Rail changed its name to the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway 3 years later. In 1847, the station was renamed London Road, and in 1849, the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway began using the station after its line from Manchester Oxford Road was extended. Its single platform, which opened on the 1st of August 1849 to the south of and adjacent to the main part of the station, was the predecessor of the through platforms 13 and 14. The MSJ-A and R route line connected to the main line south of the station and formed a through route to the LNWR's line to Liverpool. By the 1850s, London Road was overcrowded and the relationship between the LNWR and the MSLR had deteriorated, and in 1862 work started on rebuilding the station to expand it. The rebuild allowed the station to be divided, the MSLR occupying the north-eastern side and the LNWR the south-western side. The station was given a new entrance building and concourse, with each company having separate booking offices and passenger facilities. A 656-foot long iron and glass train shed was built over the terminals. It had two 95 feet wide arches, one covering the LNWR platforms and one the MSLR platforms. On the 20th of January 1866, a fatal accident occurred during the route's construction, when part of it collapsed, killing 2 workmen and injuring 30 others. The inquiry determined that the collapse was caused by strong winds and heavy snowfall. At the same time, the viaduct south of the station to Ardwick was widened to carry 4 tracks, and both companies built goods sheds and warehouses to the northern side of the passenger station. Within 10 years, the station was again overcrowded as traffic continued to increase and expansion was again required. Between 1880 and 1883, the LNWR widened its side of the station and built more platforms, which were covered by 2 more 69-foot wide arch spans to the train shed. At the same time, the MSJAR platform was taken out and rebuilt as an island platform on a girder bridge over Fairfield Street and linked to the main station by a footbridge. In May 1882, improvements were opened. In 1897, the MSLR changed its name to the Great Central Railway, and it opened its own direct route from the station to London in 1899. In 1910, the adjacent Mayfield station opened with 4 platforms to alleviate overcrowding at London Road. The station was linked by a footbridge. Mayfield station closed to passengers in 1960 and to all traffic in 1986. The derelict station has remained in situ despite proposed redevelopment schemes, including reopen it to relieve demand. In October 2013, the station's roof and canopies were demolished due to safety concerns. Following the 1923 regrouping of the railway, the LNWR amalgamated with several other railway companies to create the London Midland and Scottish Railway, and the GCR amalgamated with other railways to create the London North Eastern Railway. The division of the station was maintained, and it continued to be operated by 2 separate stations even after the nationalisation of the railways in 1948, one side being used by the London Midland region of British Railways and the other the Eastern region. Between 1958 and 1966, London Road was rebuilt in the West Coast Main Line modernisation programme undertaken by British Railways. It was renamed Manchester Piccadilly on the 12th of September 1960, Piccadilly being the name of the road and Piccadilly Gardens nearby. The London Midland region rebuilt the station at a cost of £1.7 million, which is equivalent to £41,800,000 today, in preparation for electric train services to London. Most of the station was rebuilt except for the Victorian train sheds, which remained mostly unaltered, although the two 1880 spans were shortened towards the concourse end. The station was reconstructed in two phases, 1958 to 1960 and 1963 to 1966. The break was the result of national credit squeeze restricted funding of railway modernisation. The former MSJ and R through platforms and bridges over Fairfield Street were rebuilt on a pre-stressed concrete slab bridge with cantilevered sides for tracks. The layout in the train shed was reconfigured to add several platforms. A new concourse and entrance were built alongside a 10-storey office block which housed British Rail's staff. On the 11th of May 1966, work was completed for the introduction of electric expresses to London. The approach to the station was also redeveloped. The L&WR goods shed along the station approach closed in 1965, and a curd office block, Gateway House, was opened in its place in 1969. Manchester Piccadilly remained open throughout the construction, but there was severe disruption and many trains were diverted to Manchester Mayfield or Manchester Central stations. When the work was completed, those stations were no longer required. They were closed and their services directed into Manchester Piccadilly. In the early 1970s, an underground station, Piccadilly Low Level, was proposed as part of the Manchester Piccadilly to Victoria Tunnel project. This scheme was proposed to create a direct rail link between Piccadilly and Manchester Victoria by building a tunnel and several underground stations under Manchester city centre. The project was cancelled in the late 1970s because of high costs, and the transport planners turned instead towards light rail as a lower cost option. The result eventually was the creation of the Manchester Metrolink system, which opened in early 1990s, linking the two stations by a street-level tramway and linking two converted rail lines to Altrincham and Bury. The tram stop in the station at Undercroft opened in 1992. Between 1988 and 1989, Piccadilly's through platforms 13 and 14 were further lengthened in conjunction with the opening of the Windsor Link cord to Salford, which allowed trains from take places north of Manchester, such as Bolton, Preston, Blackpool and Scotland, to run directly into Manchester Piccadilly via the through platform to continue south to destinations such as Stockport, Buxton and, from 1993, Manchester Airport. Once completed, it allowed many of the services from north to be diverted from Manchester Victoria, which was reduced in size. This enhanced Manchester Piccadilly's status as Manchester's main station. The link was opened in 1988 and it was declared to be fully operational the following year. Between 1988 and 2002, in preparation for the 2002 Commonwealth Games, the station underwent a £100 million redevelopment. The glass roof of the train shed, which was Grade 2 listed at the time, was reglazed and repainted. A new main entrance was in an enlarged concourse with the mezzanine level, designed by BDP, replaced the 1960s structure, which had become insufficient for the passenger numbers regularly used in the station, and a moving walkway was installed to take passengers from the concourse to platforms 13 and 14 on the far south of the station, which had previously necessitated a long walk. Another entrance was created at Fairfield Street, which was provided access to a new taxi rank along with a drop-off point for private cars. The station is unusual in having two different systems of overhead railway electrification. The first electrified line into London Road with the MSJ&R railway to Altrincham, a busy commuter route. It was electrified with overhead lines energised at 1,500 volts DC in 1931, with the London Road terminus at the electrification scheme, which ran through to the through platforms, and then the second line to be electrified using 1,500 volt DC was the LNER's Woodhead route from Manchester to Sheffield. Work on the scheme commenced in the late 1930s but was stopped due to the Second World War before restarting in the early 1950s. Electrification was completed in September of 1954. Two electric 1,500 volt DC lines ran into different parts of the stations. 25 kV AC overhead electrification, adopted as the national standard by British Railways, was brought into Manchester London Road / Manchester Piccadilly in the West Coast Line electrification scheme in the late 1950s. The main line was electrified to Crewe by 1960 and London by 1966. At the same time, the 1500-volt electrification on the Altrincham line was cut back to Oxford Road, where the new system was extended from the south. The Altrincham line converted to 25 kV in 1971. The two systems coexisted for a number of years. The Woodhead line, although closed as a through line in 1981, but local services to Glossop and Hatfield continued to be operated by 1500-volt trains until the line was converted to 25 kV in 1984. However, during 2010, the Northern Hub scheme saw the electrification extended from Manchester to Liverpool in 2015, Manchester to Preston, and then through to Manchester to Blackpool in 2019. So we'll get started here at Manchester Piccadilly with 175106, departing with the 1031 Transport for Wales service to Milford Haven via Crewe, Shrewsbury, Hereford and Cardiff Central. And over on the far side is 323239, working the 1033 Northern Rail service to Hatfield. Next train out is 769458, working the 1038 Northern Rail service from Southport to Alderley Edge. Arriving to terminate for Northern Rail is a reason to go to a Chinese dentist, 323230. Terminating with a service from Crewe. Baba Booey. Next out for Northern Rail is 150, 136 and 150, 129, departing with the 1040 Northern service to Rosehill Marple. Next up for East Midlands Railway is 158770 and 156498. Arriving with the slightly delayed 1039 East Midlands Railway service from Norwich to Liverpool Lime Street via Warrington Central. And departing the other way is its opposite number 158889 and 158866 with the 1042 East Midlands Railway service in Liverpool Lime Street to Norwich via Stockport, Sheffield, Nottingham and Peterborough and Ely. Whilst departing out over on the far side is 802204, working the 1042 Transpennine Express service to Newcastle via Huddersfield, Leeds and York. Arriving to terminate on the far side with a Transpennine Express service from Redcar Central is 185131 and 185129. Over on the near side is 195117, arriving working the 1047 Northern Rail service from Manchester Airport to Barrow-in-Furness via Wigan North Western. Next out to depart is the perfect pair of 331009 and 331010, working the 1047 Northern Rail service from Blackpool North to Hazel Grove. Whilst arriving to terminate is 390044 for Avanti West Coast, terminating with a service from London Euston. Next out dual working is 150107 and 195022, working the slightly delayed 1039 Northern Rail service to Chester via Altrincham and the 1049 Northern Rail service to Sheffield via New Mills Central, respectively. Whilst arriving on the near side is 150262, working the 1052 Avanti Transport Wales service from Manchester Airport to Chester via Warrington Bank Quay. Arriving to terminate on the far side with a Northern Rail service from Rosehill Marple is 150111. Taking us by surprise on departure is 323232, working the slightly delayed 1047 Northern Rail service to Stoke-on-Trent. And arriving to terminate with a Northern Rail service from Stoke-on-Trent is 323226. Departing on the near side is 175008, with the 1055 Transport for Wales service from Chester to Manchester Airport. Whilst departing at the same time is 319010, working the 1055 Avanti West Coast service to London Euston via Crewe. Arriving to terminate with a Northern Rail service from Buxton is 156,420 and 150,128. Next up is 331008 and 331019, working the 1101 Northern Rail service from Manchester Airport to Blackpool North via Bolton. Whilst departing the other way is 185129 and 185131, departing with the 1058 Transpennine Express service to Darlington via Huddersfield, Leeds and York. And arriving to terminate work in 5 Oscar 16 off Longside Car Depot is 220017 and 221121. And the clip that keeps on giving sees 195128 depart, working the 1059 Northern service from Barrow-in-Furness to Manchester Airport. Arriving to terminate with a Transpennine Express service from Cleethorpes is 185147 and 185107. Whilst 323's in and out now as 323233 passes 323230. Arriving 8 minutes late with a Northern service from Hatfield and departing with the 1101 Northern Rail service to Crewe via Stockport, respectively. Next out we see 185113, departing with the 1104 Transpennine Express service from Liverpool Lime Street to Manchester Airport. Whilst your final trains of this session is 195107 and 175003, terminating with a Northern Rail service from New Mills Central and a Transport for Wales service from Carmarthen, respectively. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed what you saw, click on the 2 videos here at the end screen. Helps out the channel. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you are new and got this far. And we'll see you all in the next video, folks, wherever that may take us. We'll see you then, folks.